Well, I thought I would share some of the easy mods you can do, mostly for free. Make your Aprilia Tuareg a lot better off-road, especially in the sand, which is what I ride, but any kind of off-road that you do. Of course, you'll notice as soon as you get on there that you don't like those passenger foot pegs. Get rid of those right away. They're easy to put on, easy to take off. If you ever want to put them back on, one bolt. They're just in the way. My heels are digging into them right away, and people say they can hurt you when you fall. Get rid of those pegs. That's such a simple thing to do. Don't even go for a first ride, just take them off. And secondly, I thought this bike, if you put it in the off-road mode, that the traction control was 100% off. But it turns out that's not the case. It's still on, I think, to level, its lowest level, and that caused me to crash. It was unpredictable when my tires are going to spin and slip, and when the traction control would kick in. So go to your settings, make sure that's turned 100% off. That would have saved me a big crash. I'm blaming my first crash where I broke a rib and bruised my spleen and my hip on that. So get rid of your traction control completely off, especially in the sand. And then number 3, which is a no-brainer, you're gonna have to switch your tires. That's the same as any vehicle. Your tires, that's gonna make 80% of your difference right there. You can do all these other mods and have lots of skill, but if you got the wrong tires, it's going to be useless in the sand. I thought maybe I could just gain experience and be okay with the stock tires. I was wrong about that. I switched to the Midas Enduro 9, which is night and day difference. So much better. I could actually come out on the sand and have fun. But I still didn't trust the front tire with the Midas Enduro 9, and I thought the bike could do better. So recently I've switched again to the Motos Desert, and again another huge step up, especially on the front tire. Huge difference. I'm not dropping the bike or having surprise dumps like I did with the Midas Enduro 9. It's still a street legal tire, and that's, maybe you don't need something that aggressive if you're not in deep sand, but for deep sand, so far this is my favorite tire. Another thing that I was at first a little bit intimidated to try was playing with the suspension, because I'm not mechanical. I was watching videos on how to adjust your suspension, which is very easy to do, and the professionals sometimes make it seem overwhelming, and I didn't want to fool around with it, but I realized I gotta make the front fork as stiff as I can for the sand, and it's so easy to do. It's one wrench, a flathead screwdriver, and if you want to play around with the rear, you don't even need a wrench. It's just a flathead screwdriver, plastic knob for your preload. If you bought an Aprilia or any bike with suspension that you can adjust, congratulations, you got nice suspension. It's made for the consumer to adjust it himself. So, and some guys say they ride for years and years and years and never touch it. Well, don't be intimidated. Righty-tighty, ready to make it stiffer. Don't get too overwhelmed with the finer details of what things mean. Just, you're not gonna wreck anything. Have some fun, play around with it. It's the simplest thing you can do, and it really makes a big difference, especially in the sand, having that front fork stiff. Tire pressure, that's something I have been told can really make a difference. I haven't fooled around with it too much yet. That's something that I guess I'm going to continue playing with, and right now I'm just at the regular, I think it's 32 psi that these tires call for, and that's how I've been running it. It feels good, but maybe I'll try lowering it 5 psi at a time, some people say. We'll see what happens. Another thing that you might not think about is if you're on these trails get rid of your mirrors, especially on this bike, the Aprilia. The mirrors just spin off. If you need your mirrors to ride on the highway to get to a trail, okay, keep them on and then throw them in your backpack when you get to the trail. Until you take them off, you don't realize how much they're distracting you when you're going through tight bush and you're trying to navigate and turn the bike slightly different just because branches and trees are in the way. And it's just one distraction you don't need. If you pull those mirrors off, which is super easy, you can just spin them off or use a wrench, whatever. It's so easy. Put a spare glove over it if you're worried about breaking them in your backpack, and it will make life easier on the trails. Not a massive difference, but it does help. It's one more little thing for a beginner like me. It helped me a lot. And then fuel, weight. It's a heavy bike. Don't let anybody tell you that it's a light bike because it's a mid-weight adventure bike. It's still 400 pounds, over 400 pounds, 200 kilos. It's a heavy bike. And when you dump it and it dumps the wrong way and you're by yourself, it's a heavy bike. And it comes with a very large fuel tank. And if you're only ripping around for an hour or so, you don't need that fuel tank full. It might not sound like a big difference, but if you only fill that tank halfway or a quarter, just enough for whatever trip you're on, you might save about 10 pounds, which isn't a lot. It's something. It's, again, the tires are going to make 80% of your difference. All these other things, they make up the other 20%. I'm sure there's other mods you can do. I've considered a lower seat just so you can get your legs down. Often I just stop in the wrong spot and I end up dumping it because I can't get my leg down, and I'm 6'2". So maybe a lower seat would definitely help when you're off-roading. I'm sure there's some other tips and simple things you can do to your bike, but it can perform off-road very well. I know a lot of adventure bikes, ADV bikes, they really can't. You can go on gravel trails or easy off-road trails, but not stuff like this. They're just not made for it. But this Aprilia, just set it up, tinker with the suspension, get proper tires. Don't be afraid to dump it. Just have some fun. You bought the bike to have fun. I've dumped this bike a lot and very minimal damage. Front brake lever, well, that can go on any bike, no big deal. I did find I had one bolt broken on the swing arm that tightens my chain. That's a $2 fix. I did it by myself. That's so easy. One time I finally did notice I have a crack in one of my plastics, and of course the plastics get scratched up, dumping it in the sand repeatedly, pushing through the bush. But you know what, I bought the bike to have fun, not to look pretty, and it looks good anyways. Has some war wounds, adds character. Enjoy your Aprilia, guys. If you have more tips, let me know.